What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Brandon Scott, again with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Today, we have special guest, Stephen Powers. We are going to talk about what are the DC boundary stones and how does the history of the city really correspond and why is it pivotal to the Washington Wizards. We're going to talk about Jordan Poole and a little bit about some passes and shots he's made lately. And finally, we're going to do a Miami Heat preview. So stay tuned because it's going to get good next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Brandon Scott, with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for our first deposit match up to $100. And today we have special guests, longtime Wizards season ticket holder, I believe from 2014, and he is a historian who does an annual tour of the DC Boundary Stones, which I are now getting into. And if you want to check him out, definitely check him out at dzstones.org. So how you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Yep. In spite of the loss last night, I'm doing really well.
Absolutely. So we're going to dig right into it. So briefly, can you explain what are the DC Boundary Stones?
So when DC was first founded in the Residence Act of 1790, George Washington was allowed to put a 10-mile square around DC. Through his Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson, they hired Andrew Ellicott of Ellicott City. He and Benjamin Banneker came down to lay the 40 miles worth of lines that make up the diamond around the square, the city. They were, they put 40 boundary stones to mark that.
Wow. Outstanding. So like I said, I've got into it. I'm actually one class away from a history degree, a bachelor's in history, man. I'm a history head. So I was very intrigued when I started studying into it, but kind of moving on. The boundary stones were the inspiration to the Wizards' new city edition jerseys. So looking at the Washington Wizards and the fact that they've had a connection to the community, if you look at a lot of the work done by John Wall, Bradley Beal, amongst other players, their connection to the community, but really their connection to the culture and history of the city. So to you, how pivotal is the Washington Wizards organization with the culture and the history of Washington, D.C.?
They came here in 1974, the Capitol Bullets from Baltimore. Since then, that big pivotal championship series in 1979, that parade that people came out for, you could see that this region was basketball heavy. A lot of pride in Elgin Baylor and all through some other names through there. It took off. It was the first championship since the Redskins in the 50s. The city really embraced the Bullets. And then now here we are, like you said, another 45 years. Plenty of players have come in. The last couple of decades with Wall, Jordan, it really does ignite the city and bring the region, Maryland and Virginia, into this whole culture of basketball.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Bullets. Obviously, people forget that the Bullets used to play in Landover, which is the current home of the Commanders. Used to be the Redskins. But so I believe it was U.S. Airways Arena. So
even before that, it was Capitol Center. And most people don't realize Capitol Center was built in the mid-'70s. First sky boxes ever. That's where the term skybox came from, was from Capitol Center. It was state of the art in the 70s, but it got old and outdated. And again, back to the culture and changing, coming back downtown, that was another thing that really ignited downtown and built up the city, a lot more pride. So, that's where I was first a season ticket holder at Cap Center back in the 90s. So yeah, I remember Landover fondly.
Outstanding. So kind of change focus real quick. An era just ended Bradley Beal is now a Phoenix Sun. We've gone through many eras. Obviously, I was very young. I was born in '85, so I don't quite remember, Wes Unseld Sr. those years, but I mostly remember Gilbert Arenas, John Wall. So kind of looking at those eras, going from Agent Zero to John Wall. How do you characterize the Bradley Beal era? Was it successful? Was it? How do you characterize his era?
Well, I look at things a little differently than most. And with Ernie built 2 rebuilds, and he built 2 teams that everyone was pretty proud of, and championship, and not champion teams, but would compete for that level of top 4 in the East. That turned to of course the Wall era, and they brought Beal in. They went all in Supermax at the end, towards that end. Maybe should not have kept it going on a little longer. Wanted to commit to 2 players that were part of the community and the community embraced. After the mediocrity and the injuries to both players, because Beal now this is 3rd year in a row. He's experienced back problems, and John, his legs and knees. Everybody's well familiar with that saga and that sad story. It was time. It certainly was time. Leaving Shepard and the Ernie era, it was time for a new front office. So I think everybody can rejoice in looking to the 20s and beyond, and try and put in the teens and those 2, pretty good eras with Wall and Arenas as they're defined. That got a lot of the younger fans a taste for winning, and haven't had to go through some of these long hardships of sustained mediocrity in the 18 to 40 wins instead of the 30 to 40 wins. So this is going to be new for a lot of fans who've wanted it, but once you're slapped in the face with it for 3 years as player turnover and trying to get the right superstars, because let's face it, if you don't have a top 10 player in the NBA, you're at a disadvantage for any team. And those elite top 10 players, the LeBrons, the generational defining players, man, it makes it. They've made a lot of great GMs, those type of players.
I completely agree. So I got a question for both of you real quick. Gilbert Arenas on his podcast recently said that he believed that his team could beat the 2017 John Wall team. So I'm gonna start with you. Who wins in that matchup between Agent Zero and the 2017 John Wall team?
I'm going to go right up. I'll just go right to the bottom. I would go with the Wall team in 2017, 2017, that era. I thought the Paul Pierce, John Wall team with Nene and Beal, right age of blend of players. Gortat had just been brought in. I think that would have been tough for the Caron Butler, Antawn Jamison, Gilbert Arenas. We didn't get enough of that. We had 1 year with that where it kind of came together. And I don't know that they had the supporting cast, the next, number 3 through 8 player that could have gone up against the John Wall team.
Oh yeah. What do you think, E? Who you got?
It's a tough one, man. But I just think Gilbert, honestly, the way he could take over games at the end was just some of those shots where you saw Jordan Poole try to do a turnaround jumper, but Gilbert Arenas can do it, man. He did it multiple times. So it would be very close, though. If it was a 7-game series, I think it would go to 7 games. And it would go down to the wire. But I just think leaning on Gilbert and Caron, tough juice. He was an all-star at the time, Antawn Jamison. But both teams were really good. They were a lot of fun to watch. I would give the team with Gilbert just a slight edge, very small edge.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it comes down to bench. Who has the best bench?
And
really
team didn't have a bench.
Yeah, I mean, neither team were really known for their depth. You know what I mean? So yeah, it'll be a tight one, man. I was very surprised to hear about the comments, but so really the matchup I'm looking for is Wall versus Arenas. One's a predominant offensive guy where look, people forget that John Wall was a defensive guy. He was the guy who could shut down people. So that would be a good matchup. So next, Ed is going to ask about Jordan Poole. Is it passion or is it immaturity? We're going to talk about that next. And we're going to do a Heat preview for the first in-season tournament game in Miami against the Heat. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks, you're asking? Well, PrizePicks is actually the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play betting. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of betting thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you can more or less pick 2 to 6 players with their stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So looking at Miami, I'm definitely going to give Bam Adebayo an over on rebounds, because obviously right now rebounding is an issue for the Wizards. So that is where I'm going with my bet. But testing my skills on PrizePicks this basketball season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 for just a few taps. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. That is it. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use promo code LockedOnNBA for our first deposit match up to $100. Let me repeat that. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use promo code LockedOnNBA for the first deposit match up to $100. And thanks for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. We're going to do a recap of the Wizards, hopefully their victory over the Miami Heat. So definitely tune in for that. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to my guy.
Yep, just want to ask you guys, and Stevie, you can go first. Through the first 4 games of the season, what's been your impression of Jordan Poole so far, and what were your thoughts on the pass that he had off the glass to Kyle Kuzma yesterday?
So those two coming into DC with a lot on their shoulders right now. They've got to be the entertainment value as well as the leaders. It's a new role for Poole. He's a young man. It's the first time he's thrust into this kind of a role. How he takes that on off the court as well as on the court, it's going to lead to that success. Those first 4 games, he's not shooting well. I think there's a lot riding on what's going on. When they do get those opportunities to flash, like last night, they take advantage. They did it. It doesn't help when you're down by that much. It doesn't have that sizzle, so you got to question it.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. But to me is, if you look at your flashy players in the league, obviously Stephen Curry, but when you get hit those shots like you can do that. When you're down 20, I don't want to see that. It's just, it really sends a bad message because, a lot of people were very critical of Bradley Beal last year. There was times when we were down, he was happy, he was joking around, and people took offense to that. When you're down 20, I want to see some seriousness because, again, you mentioned it. Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole both came in here with championship experience. So a lot of these young guys are looking at them for leadership, and they're young leaders. Last year, I truly believe that Kyle Kuzma was that leader. So you got to lead by example. I'm an Army guy, and so, I was an NCO. So you lead by example. You guys look to you to be that example. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. I know he's a young guy. I like the energy. I like the chemistry of the team. I like them having fun. But, like you said, there's a time and place for everything. So.
Yeah, I was more upset about, and it was a Shaq in a full moment last night as well. But I was more upset when he did the turnaround behind the back and then shot it against Porzingis, and Porzingis blocked it. That was the one that definitely, if I'm not upset, but I was more concerned about that play than the behind the back one actually. But like you said, Steven, you brought up Brandon too. Like he's still a young man, he's still maturing. I thought he did a lot of good things over the all season. Calling Bilal, texting him when Bilal got drafted. He organized them to play in California over the summer. So Jordan's done a lot of good things. We've seen some ups and downs with him with the Warriors, but yeah, he is in a new role where he's going to be a starter for the whole season instead of coming off the bench, playing next to Steph, playing next to Clay, and some other guys that have so much championship experience. So yeah, it's a new role that he has to get used to, where he is supposed to be the number one guy on the team or the number two guy on the team. So it's definitely a lot of weight on his shoulders, and I think he's certainly adjusting to it. It's a rocky start, but it's an 82 game season, so I think he's going to play well. He went crazy in that one preseason game where he had 41 points, and I think we're going to get some more games like that. But it's going to be a roller coaster ride for sure, and it's a learning experience for him.
Yeah, I hope he and Kyle just don't go hot dog and try and get their shots up. I hope they try and blend in.
Right. Yeah, it takes time. It takes time.
So it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and they got to fill up the new seats. The new seats are in there, the sections.
That's it's all part of it, because it's not just it's a business.
Are your season tickets at the sections?
Mine are behind the bench, 103.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I enjoyed sitting back there. Watching live basketball is nothing like it. These are the greatest athletes in the world, and seeing them all come in through here and every year trying to manage different men, like you said in the Army, you got to put people together. Everyone got to get their role. You got to be a tight machine. It's tough, man, with personalities and injuries and contracts. So we'll see. It's gonna be a fun year, though.
Yeah, and it looked like I'm not sure if he got benched last night, but it kind of looked like he did, because I really didn't see him come back to the game after that. So I don't know if Wes, put his foot down after that, but we'll see how many minutes he gets against Miami, because it's another tough team, and they could beat us by 30 points, even though they're only 1-4. And we're going to get to the preview. They definitely could beat us by 30, like Boston did for sure. So we're going to get a quick word in from FanDuel, and then we're going to do a preview of the game tomorrow, the in-season tournament. But let's get to FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL or NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting apps, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. If I had to make a pick tomorrow night, it would be a tough one. I don't think they've released the lines yet for the Wizards and Heat game, but it's hard not to take the Heat money line. But if you took a money line, I mean, you wouldn't really get much out of it. But if you want to do the Wizards are 9.5 underdogs in this game, so I probably would take the Heat minus 9.5 at home, and that would be minus 110. So you would break about even on that one. But we're gonna get into the preview here. So the Miami Heat they're actually 1-4, which is surprising. They went to the NBA Finals last year, and we all know about Heat culture. What are you guys' keys to victory, or not even just keys to victory? Because right now we're in a developing season. What are some things that you're looking forward to tomorrow night? Is it Denny continuing playing well, or is it Johnny Davis, seeing him get out there and make some strides, or Eugene? He's been playing so well. So Steven, what are you looking for in the game?
Just a little bit all of that. How West uses these, minutes for everybody, and who's going to get 15 to 25, and at what points are they in the zone? Like to see more continued effort from Denny. Don't know if Gaff's going to be back. Love to see him back. But just that the rookie bringing him in just at the right times. I don't want to overwhelm him. I'm not like others, throw him into fire and just burn him up. So more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely want to see Bilal out there. He had a good showing last night. Got double-digit points. And how about you, Brandon?
A couple things, man. One, I want to see Hart. I want to see them about their business, really focus on not so much about having fun, but the focus on the task at hand. Really want to see pride in the name in the front, not the name in the back. You know what I'm saying? I want to see them kind of coerce as a unit, man. I want to see effort. That's all I want to see. But I think to showcase the one person is, I think this is a game where Johnny Davis has to really showcase what he can do. Because Corey Kispert, it's kind of 50-50 whether he's going to be able to play because, ironically, him and Gafford both, I believe, is left ankle injuries. So, it's kind of up in the air whether Kispert plays. Gafford is definitely needed because, we have a lack of depth at the center position. So I'm looking for Johnny Davis at that 2 guard on the second unit to really showcase because, in my opinion, out of all the young guys, except for Bilal, they're all showcasing because none of them were drafted by this front office. So they have to show that they could be part of the future. And Johnny Davis, out of all of them, has to show what he can do because, again, how much loyalty does the front office have because they didn't draft him? So, I want to see Johnny Davis prosper, but it's games like this where I believe he should get 15, 20 minutes and really see what he can do. And so, yeah, I'm going to showcase Johnny Davis.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I want to see how Jordan Poole responds and how he bounces back because it really did look like he got benched. And this is against a tough team with Heat culture. You got Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. So they got a lot of guys that played in the championship last year with that just that experience and just that toughness. They're a team where I think they could jump out to an early lead. We jumped out to an early lead last night, but they just got to play with effort and heart, like you said, Brandon. I do want to see Bilal get some minutes. I thought he's been playing well. Johnny Davis, he could take advantage of the opportunity with Corey Kispert. He's questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play. Same thing with Gafford. We've seen how games have gone without Gafford. We've given Gafford a hard time because of his play sometimes. But when he doesn't play, we just don't have a lot of depth there with Gallo and Muscala. So going up against a big guy like Bam Adebayo, who's given us trouble in the past, they definitely have to really, really do their best to rebound the ball and play with physicality because the Heat, they're going to play with a lot of physicality. So rebound is going to be huge. Defending Tyler Hero because he's been on a heater. So who's going to be guarding him? I think Johnny Davis, that would be a good task for him. Johnny Davis is one of the better defenders on the team. So I think that would be a good task for Johnny Davis and just not selling for 3-pointers. I know Wes wants to get up 40 3-pointers, but a lot of times we got to work on our shot selection. Same thing with Jordan Poole, same thing with Kyle Kuzma. And just ball movement. Ball movement is going to be huge tomorrow night. So just playing with effort, playing with toughness, playing like we're on the same level as the other team because the Celtics, it looked like they just we weren't even looking at them. We were looking up at the Celtics. That's the way that they were playing. So I think they got to come out to a good start. And Eugene, man, let Eugene get some minutes. Eugene comes in and he's just he's a fire starter. He's just a guy just full of energy. So I think he needs more minutes. I think he's earned 15 minutes. I think he should get in before the third quarter for sure.
All right, so predictions. What do you guys predict? What's score? Who wins? What's the score? And who's your Wizards high score? Who leads the scoring tomorrow night?
High score tomorrow night. I'll go with Kuzma for a high score. I think playing in Miami, I think he's going to be up for trying to do something down on South Beach. So I'll go Kuzma, but Miami, and they cover the spread.
We got
I'm gonna go with Kuz as well because he's been the most consistent. Honestly, Jordan Poole, I just haven't. He's been pretty. It's only been 4 games, but he's been pretty inconsistent. So I'll go with Kyle Kuzma as the leading scorer tomorrow night as well. Denny almost got it last night. He ended up with 22. He shot the ball pretty well. So looked confident. And yeah, I would go with Miami winning by more than 9 as well, especially if Gafford is out. Then Bam Adebayo, he may end up with 25.
Yeah,
he might do it anyway with Gafford there.
Yeah, I'm rolling with obviously Miami, but I'm gonna say Jordan Poole is a high scorer. I'm gonna say he dropped 27. I think he's gonna listen to us tonight. He's gonna step his game up. I think he's gonna have a good game because he's got too much talent to really struggle for too long. If the biggest issues are a little bit of immaturity, I'm cool with that. It's a rebuild. Let's work on it. This coaching staff's gonna coach him up, go get him there. He's got too much talent, so I think he's gonna show out 27 points. So. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, we appreciate you, Stephen, for coming on. Definitely enlightening us on the boundary stones and chopping it up with us. Before we roll, is there anything you want to plug real quick?
I want to ask you guys, what do you think of the new uniforms? I mean, you have as one of the reasons I'm on is these new city uniforms and their ties with the boundary stones. What do you two think of them?
I'll be honest, man. When they first leaked it was only the shorts, and they had it to where the person who took the picture had it where it looked similar like the Chicago Bulls one. But when they released the uniforms, I just bought one today. I just bought me a Jordan Poole, man, not even like 3 hours ago. I like them. I'm a big fan of them because I like how they resonate with the history of the city. Like I said, I didn't know too much about the boundary stones. And I grew up, I'm from Virginia. I'm from Loudoun County, Virginia. So I'm a big history guy. I take my family out to battlefields and all that. We're always going out doing stuff. So I'm intrigued to go start looking at boundary stones now. So I love the concept. I love them.
That's a good question. Yeah, we are. It's a good thing you asked it because we almost didn't mention it. But yeah, I've seen a lot of good reviews about it. Some people, compared it to medieval times. I could definitely see that because the green and the colorway, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's different. It's not the typical red, white, and blue that we have. So it is different. I had to get used to it. Anytime there's like a different jersey or colorway, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. Just like the cherry blossom jerseys last year, I like those too. So I think they're different. I like the colorway of the court too. I think it's a different scheme, which is cool. Yeah. So I'm intrigued by it. I like it.
So I was asked by the Wizards about 2 years ago. It takes 2 years to do a city jersey. And they wanted to do something with the city. And of course, they wanted to get away from the red, white, and blue from all those district jerseys. And they had gone the cherry blossoms, which was pretty obvious. They wanted to do something of the city. So when they knew about what I did with the boundary stones and their own interest, they brought me in to help pitch it to Nike. When Nike heard it 2 years ago, they said nothing embodied the city theme jersey like this. It was Maryland and Virginia giving land to create DC and creating a region. And they really were sold on selling that idea as the region. When first concept, and I don't know, if you got to cut me off, if we're going too long, let me know.
Oh, no.
No, you're good.
The colors of the stones, at first that was the immediate. Let's make it a stone color like the Aquia Creek. It's very distinctive stone color. It's oranges and whatnot, sandstone. They couldn't do that because it conflicted with the courts on TV, and it was too much blend. So Nike, one of the things they wanted to do with all the city jerseys this year was incorporate more black and gray. So if you notice all the city jerseys on all the uniforms, there's a lot of black and gray on it. So they wanted to do that in their own design color schemes and things. When they got the prototypes and the Wizards brought me in and asked me, I looked at 4 or 5 different concept designs of things they were going to do. Nike has total creative control, but they wanted some feedback. What they did through all the images of the stones and the fences, they drew the most from those colors, and they wanted to go to the patina and the oxidized iron. And they wanted to pull in the bronze from the Wizards, from the Jordan and from the early Wizards, the bronze and the gold. That's why it ended up how it ended. The red line, of course, is red. They wanted to incorporate red, white, and blue, and also the coat of arms, Washington's coat of arms. So that's kind of where that whole concept came from. The first time I saw it, I was taken aback because the emphasis was so much on the abstractness of it and the boundary line itself. That's what they went after, and wrapping it around the whole uniform. Nike wanted to make it a uniform, not a jersey, because they also saw bringing, like Virginia and Maryland, bringing the shorts and the shirt together. So, I mean, Nike, it was kind of really interesting how they wanted to take this color scheme and the fonts. That comes from the Pierre Lafont map of the city, the original one. That's got all that. It's called Old English black letter font, and it's funny to hear people, medieval and Dungeons and Dragons, but that was pretty common font in those days. So it's interesting how they brought all those things together. And wanted to do this. So when I look at the jersey, I look at it a lot different than most people. But in the end, I'm pretty excited about it, and that they took it in a different direction with different colors and really added some more different fonts. It's the first font change we've had in all our city jerseys. So that's kind of what I think about the jersey. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see it on the out there. I can't wait to see some of the promotions, because I've had my hand working with them on the promotions that are coming out. So there's a couple of those that I'm really excited about as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I watched the YouTube video where you had a lot of hair and you had a beard and you walked around and so because some of the stones, they were behind people's houses, right, or like in the woods.
So of the 40 stones, there's 4 cornerstones, and on each 10-mile leg, 1 mile apart, there's a stone. 36 of the 40 are still there, and they're along in DC, Maryland. They're along Western, Eastern, and Southern Aves for the most part. Virginia, they're along King Street, and then they go up through Arlington. The 4 that are missing are 3 replica stones now and a plaque. So all 40 sites are still, but they're in a cemetery, a church parking lot, the water treatment center. They're down by the Potomac River. They're in national parks. They're in people's backyards. They're in people's front yards. So it's a hodgepodge of where they all are, and each one has its own little uniqueness. I've gone on a Boundary Stones and a Day tour every year, the first Sunday in May, for 18 years. And I've watched the area around the stones change. I watched the stones change, documented a lot of that, and put a small piece in the 230 years history of the stones, because there's other caretakers and each one has its story. It's really a fascinating piece of our culture here, because you've got stones in Bethesda, Oxon Hill, Temple Hill, Congress Heights, Chillum, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, Alexandria, Arlington, McLean, Falls Church. And again, the culture, tying in all of that. So that's why I'm really excited that the Wizards saw fit to try and promote that part of this history and culture to everybody.
Absolutely. So again, excuse me. Again, we definitely appreciate you coming on tonight. A lot of good information. Like I said, very, very intrigued about the Boundary Stones. I'm gonna be there in May for that tour. I'm definitely gonna be there. So again, appreciate your time tonight. So before we roll, like I said, he mentioned already, go to dcstones.org. Definitely get on the tour, learn some piece of history, American history, District of Columbia history. It's definitely good stuff. So again, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Wherever you get your podcast, definitely give us a 5-star review. Much appreciated. And like, subscribe, comment below. And definitely, we appreciate you guys. So hail to the Wizards and peace. Everybody have a good night.